This episode of Test Drive is made possible by RateMyEV.com. When it comes to automotive luxury, there are a number of brands and nameplates that come to mind as the pinnacle of what the future has to offer. Cadillac's Escalade has been that pioneering force for over 25 years now, and with this, we now have a fully electric version. Today we're going to be talking about this 2025 Cadillac Escalade IQ Sport 2, how this vehicle compares to the gas version, and how it compares to the other Cadillacs on the market, because there isn't anything else that is in this size segment at this time. Even something like the Mercedes-Benz G 580 EQ technology isn't the same as this. It's a smaller vehicle, a little bit more off-road oriented, but the Escalade is that three-row behemoth that people buy because of A, the looks and overall street presence, but B, when it comes to something like this, you're actually getting more range with this than you do with the gas version. The 6.2-liter V8 produces a good amount of power, but it also consumes an insane amount of gas. So this is, I think, the first vehicle we've ever featured that the electric version outperforms the range of its gas counterpart. Now, coming in at just under $200,000 Canadian or $160,000 in the US, this is a very well-equipped model. Not only do we have the rear executive package, but we also get the Onyx package on this as well, which brings that price up. But we're going to be going over what makes this special and everything else you need to know if you're in the market for the Escalade IQ. So first off, let's talk about the battery pack and everything that powers this vehicle. We have two electric motors good for 750 horsepower, 785 pound-feet of torque using the Velocity Max button on the steering wheel. I've used it a couple times, but for the most part you don't really need it because this does get up to speed about as quick as a regular Escalade. It has a 205 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery, which is good for over 740 kilometers of fully electric driving range, and I've been seeing that as I've had this vehicle charged up and driving around here in town, even going on longer distance stuff. It has given me excellent range. With this vehicle, we get an 8,000 pound tow rating as well. So if you do want to put something on the back, whether it's a little trailer or a camper, you do have the option to do so. And because this has a lot more range than, say, the F-150 Lightning, which we did do towing testing with, you should be able to get quite a bit more range, even if you're losing about half of it. But because this is an electric vehicle and the motor doesn't take up as much space as an engine would, we do have a front storage area. It is power operated. You can open it up and you can fit quite a bit of things in there, and there is a power outlet to be able to plug stuff in. So overall, very functional when it comes to that. So the first thing that I noticed when I picked up the Escalade IQ was just the enormity of this vehicle. Comparing it to the ESV, the Escalade, the gas version ESV, this is 2.1 inches longer for the wheelbase and 12.4 inches longer overall compared to the short wheelbase Escalade. 4 inches wider overall as well, and it is, believe it or not, about half an inch shorter with height compared to the standard wheelbase gas version of the Escalade. Or, as you're hearing me say, Escalade, it's a fun way to say that it's an ICE vehicle. But this is an enormous vehicle. It is so much bigger and barely fits in my garage. I am pretty much within inches of it not fitting, but it does get the job done. Now, the elephant in the room is this weighs almost 3,000 pounds or 50% more than the most heaviest ESV Duramax engine version of the Cadillac Escalade. That comes in at about 6,000 pounds, just under. This is 9,000 pounds. So this is a much heavier vehicle. And despite the fact that this does have magnetic ride control 4, an adaptive air suspension, and even four-wheel steering, you do feel a little bit more of that weight when you're driving it on the road. And I will talk about that when we take it on our road test. But the other thing that you can see when you compare this next to a regular gas Escalade is the overall design. This is less boxy, more aerodynamic, and especially the rear end, it really does cut off a little bit more. Despite it being a longer vehicle, it's just a little bit more aerodynamic. Now, when the new IQL comes out next year, it will have a more traditional boxier Escalade shape to it, specifically around the back. That will be a lot more squared off compared to how this one is, giving you a little bit more room back there. So if you are using the third row or you want a little bit more cargo capacity, the IQL will be the one to go for. But aside from that, this gives you all of the benefits and features that you get with the Escalade, as well as power doors. Yes, automatic power opening and closing doors. It's something that we hinted at when I drove the Escalade before. That's something that's supposed to be coming as a software update for the gas versions. But this vehicle allows you to just touch the door handle and it will open automatically, and it has sensors built into the door to detect if there's something that it will hit, so it will not hit any cars or people as you're getting in and out of the vehicle. I mean, if that's not luxury, I don't know what is. Now, the interior feels very familiar to the ICE Escalade that I drove not too long ago. We do have the 55-inch total diagonal LED display that goes all the way across the width of the dashboard here, with the center cluster, your trip computer in the middle, maps or music, whatever you may be, the infotainment system center, as well as the driver information system that can show you things like what's going on the rear screens back there, or just regular trip data like how much energy we're using and the overall range, things like that. We have a second screen in the center that controls all sorts of things. HVAC controls, heated, ventilated, massaging, memory seats, all stuff like that. We can see the 360 camera controls through there. And what I actually like is when you go to type something in with Google Maps, it actually brings up the keyboard down here. So you're not going all the way back up to the main infotainment system. It works pretty well. And overall, as much as we like our buttons here on Test Drive, Cadillac has done an excellent job getting all of this working extremely well. There's enough processing power behind it to be able to drive all these displays without being laggy. So they work very, very well. I have really no complaints about it. We have talked about it in the past. There's no Android Auto or Apple CarPlay with this generation of Cadillac infotainment system on the newer vehicles. The Lyriq is the only electric vehicle from Cadillac that currently has it, but they want you to have an OnStar subscription with a data plan in order to have access to this stuff. Now, I will let you know if you buy one of these vehicles, you will have access to that for quite some time, but it's afterwards, right? After that trial is over, you're going to be paying for it. So it's nice that it's included at least for most of the time you're going to be owning this. Chances you're going to lease this for like 3 or 4 years. But aside from that, we have heated, ventilated, massaging, and memory front seats, which is excellent. We have a color head-up display, albeit on the small side, especially at this price point. I would have really liked to have seen a bigger HUD from GM at this point, but it works well enough. We've got the digital rear view mirror system. I like that. 360-degree cameras. And then, again, the center controls that allow you to do all the HVAC, because we do have effectively 4-zone climate control, 2 zones up here, 1 in the middle, and then 1 at the very back. Now, this is also the first time that we're driving a Cadillac Escalade that the second row really becomes the center stage for the occupants. Cadillac has taken a lot of the feedback that journalists and owners have given over the years, saying that the Germans just do it better if you're going to be driven in this vehicle rather than driving it. The second row with the executive package now comes very well equipped. We have the dual 12.6-inch rear entertainment screens. Again, there isn't anything built in. I think that's another miss, especially considering we have a 5G data modem on this vehicle with a Wi-Fi hotspot. It requires you to have a second device plugged into USB and HDMI in order to power it and drive it to the screens. That could be like a Roku, a Chromecast, if they still make them, Apple TV, things like that. Bit of a bummer. I think that at this point, it's just got to be built in. These things can have like a Roku TV built into them. I don't know why they don't. But those second row seats are heated, ventilated, massaging, and power operated. Very nice. And then we have the center table trays that come out of the center armrest to be able to fold out. You can do your meals in there if you've got a little meal on your way to the airport or whatever it may be. You can put your laptop, you can do some work. They are great. They feel good, nice and solid metal design to them. Kind of again shows that Cadillac is taking feedback and competing now against the Germans. Aside from that, we have the 36-speaker AKG Studio reference surround sound audio system. It sounds very good, although I still do prefer the Bowers & Wilkins 4D surround sound system that gives you bass speakers in the seats that actually bump along with the music. These ones, though, have speakers in the headrest, so you do get a little bit more of a 3D surround sound with it. I think it works pretty well. Now, the one thing I was disappointed when it came to this vehicle, and I hope that the IQL will fix that, comes to the third row. They're fine. You can fit back there. You can get, 2-3 adults back there. You've got USB ports. You've got the vents with the other zone for climate control back there. That's fine. But if you don't use the third row, typically you would fold it down and you would have maximum cargo capacity, and you would expect to then also have the same or better rear capacity for the second row. But when you fold the third row flat, because the headrests stick out a little bit, the second row can't go back as far as it can if those seats are up. So effectively, if you want the best legroom for your rear passengers, you have to have the third row up, which means your cargo capacity is diminished by quite a bit. Now, hopefully the IQL will fix that. It's supposed to add 4 inches to the rear legroom, so if they can do that, then you can hopefully fold those seats flat and still get the extended legroom for the second row. It's a small thing. I mean, you can still fit back there, no problem. But I think, again, if you're really taking on the Germans with things like the Mercedes-Benz GLS, the BMW X7, or even a G-Wagon, you want that experience to be next level for the people who are riding in your backseat. But that's about it for the interior, exterior. I think it's time we take this Escalade IQ on the road, take it out at night, and see how it is to live with. All right, let's talk about energy efficiency first. We completed our 100-kilometer test loop in this vehicle in 3 kilometers per kilowatt hour, which works out to be about 33 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, right? It's not terrible. I mean, it's kind of in line with what I expected. A little bit more than the Ford F-150 Lightning that we did, most of them, in fact. So it's not quite as efficient, right? But at 9,000 pounds, what do you expect? And this is also a fridge, right? It's huge. Like, yes, they've done a lot to make it aerodynamic, but the vehicle is still very large and it doesn't really cut through the air quite as much. So yeah, energy efficiency wasn't terrible. Charging on this has been pretty good though. I mean, you're supposed to be able to get up to like 350 kilowatts with DC fast charging. Here in town, I do have a 100 and I think it's supposed to be 120. And I was getting effectively like 120. It really maxed out at that. And it stayed at a very sustained, 117 kilowatts for a majority of my fast charging. I went from like 40% to 90. Yeah, it took, maybe 35 minutes while I was there, but not bad at all. So very good charging numbers from this vehicle. You can get the faster 19 kilowatt level 2.5, I like to call it, charging. If your house supports it, I believe you need like an 80 amp breaker for that. If not more, it might even be like 100 amp, because when we had the 7.2 at home, that was a 40 amp breaker with like a little overflow because it was really only running at 30. So yeah, you might need a 100 amp breaker for that, but get you charged up pretty quick. But anyway, let's talk about how this vehicle has been, because I wanted to love it. And I do like it quite a bit, but there are a couple things that have made me question this vehicle. Number one has been the ride. This is a smooth road, and it has been smooth. There's very little to complain about. Vehicle rides pretty well. But I've noticed on a lot of roads, and I'm not talking like bumpy, disgusting, pothole-ridden roads, but kind of regular, roads that have been kind of patched up over time. They're not perfect, but they're not terrible. This thing just doesn't ride very well. It's bumpy, it shakes, it feels like an older pickup truck, but it's not all the time. So I don't know if it's an issue maybe with the tires, because if the vehicle sits for like, half a day, it's so heavy, it's putting weight on the bottom of those tires. So then you start going again and it's got to kind of recirculate the tire. So you're almost getting like a flat spot every time you're parking this thing because it's so heavy. So I don't know if that's the issue, because like I'll notice it more when I first start up. So if I wake up in the morning and I get out of my neighborhood, it's like really just jittery, and then it kind of smooths itself out. And then look, some of these bumps here, they're not huge, they're not enormous, they're just kind of typical road imperfections. I feel like I'm feeling them a lot more. So it hasn't been great when it comes to ride. And I'm surprised, because we do have magnetic ride control 4. We've got the adaptive air ride suspension. So I'm not sure. I think a lot of it has to do with the weight and the 24-inch wheels. But I don't remember the Silverado EV feeling quite as rough. So I'd have to try to drive it again. But I'd have to drive it like now just to be able to compare. And then I have noticed a couple build quality issues with this. Things like the trim, some of them are sticking out a little bit more than they should. I've had some issues with the opening trunk in the front. You push the button and it won't go. You have to hold the button. So I don't know if that's like a safety thing, but you have to hold it when you do it from the key fob. You have to push it twice and then hold it. So I don't know. I've held it all the time when I've been opening it, and it will open and close. But if you just go to push it, doesn't work. And then even with the trunk in the back, with the other Cadillac electrics, something like the Lyric, you push the Cadillac crest and that's what opens it. With this one, I don't know if it's jammed or something. You don't feel like a click, and then it'll sometimes open up, and you got to give it a couple hits in order for it to go. So a couple weird things like that. The overall power doors have worked, but they have tripped, I guess, erring on the side of caution, not to open the full way because it thinks it detects something. So I guess better than hitting something. I haven't hit anything, which has been good. I've tested it a couple times, like in the garage. I've tested it in parking lots. I've stood beside it, and it's never tried to hit me. So the automatic doors do work, but sometimes they just won't open the whole way. So, just something to note. But aside from that, though, I mean, it's been all right. If you're spending $200,000, though, you do want perfection. So I do hope that some of the quality control issues can be addressed. You want to make sure you're buying a vehicle that's this price, you want it to be effectively flawless, even if you're only leasing it for a few years. You're paying big money, you expect big money from it. So I'm a little disappointed with some of those. But aside from that, though, does this live up to what I would want out of a fully electric Escalade? And I would say yes, absolutely it does. Because I love electrics, as you know here on Test Drive. If you've watched this channel for any time and you've watched any of the content that I have done, I love my electrics. And the whole reason that I love my electrics is because I do the research first. Our sponsor, RateMyEV.com, is the place to go to get in-depth owner-based reviews of any electric vehicle you're looking for on the market, whether it's an Escalade IQ or something a little bit more manageable on a daily basis, like a Hyundai Ioniq 5. Check out RateMyEV.com, not only if you're in the market for an electric vehicle to get owner-based reviews of how it's been to live with, but also to leave your review if you own an electric vehicle, new or old, obscure or mainstream. Get your review on there to help others to see what it is to live with these vehicles. And you can either leave a pretty basic review, or you can be pretty detailed like I did when I reviewed my Ford Focus on there. So check out RateMyEV.com, and big thanks to them for supporting this channel. But back to what I was saying, yes, this is what I expected from an electrified Escalade. I have the space, I have the comfort, I have all the technology that Cadillac has to offer at this time. There's nothing that I'm really missing. I mean, in fact, this is the first time I'm driving it at night. I do have night vision, not necessarily a new feature for Cadillac, but it is nice to have. So as I'm driving around, I can see heat signatures of anybody. So if a cat or a deer or moose or a pedestrian wants to jump in front of my Escalade, I can make sure that I avoid them, or at least try to. So you've got all the tech, you've got the space, you've got a lot of the second row features that we've been missing from Cadillac up until now. So it's nice to see that. The range, I have had zero concerns with it. Even without having my level 2 charger installed at the house, I've been using the level 1. It really doesn't charge enough for what I use during the day, because this is such a heavy vehicle. It's using so much electricity. Like, I'll plug it in at 89% and it'll get up to 93 maybe by the next morning, and then I'll use up more than that during the day. So I'm really not getting it back. But most people, everybody who buys this should be installing a level 2. So it's just a me problem since we just moved here. But for the most part, it's got the range, it's got the performance, it's got the comfort. Everything that I really want out of an Escalade is here. I'm not missing anything. Price, it's a little high, but that's what you expect from an Escalade. I mean, they've crept up quite a bit over the last few years. I mean, $160K gets you a relatively well-equipped Escalade. So yeah, I mean, it's done what I want. I want the ride to be better and the overall build quality. But aside from that, though, good job. I'm very curious to see how the IQ-L will be, because if this is meant to be sort of the everyday, every consumer Escalade electric version, and then you want one that's just almost the same, it's the same wheelbase, just a little bit longer overall, and with that boxier rear end, the IQ-L, I think, will be pretty popular. Plus, it's got a little bit more of that traditional Escalade design silhouette to it. So I'm very much looking forward to see that. But I've been impressed. I like it. I like it quite a bit. Would I buy one, though? I mean, I don't have the money for it. So would I buy this over the Mercedes G-Wagon electric that I drove? I would buy this. That's an easy question, because if I had the money for that, that has half the range. It's a smaller vehicle. Yes, it looks cool. Yes, it is cool. It's a G-Wagon, but I mean, for practicality and day-to-day use, I would like to have a vehicle like this that has all the creature comforts that I ultimately want and need, but also has all that range. Because yes, if I had this thing charged up, if I was a normal consumer and was able to do it at home properly, starting off each day with 90%, which is what you should be targeting towards, you've got over 680 kilometers of driving to do. more than I do in a day. But anyway, if you have any questions about this vehicle or anything that we're doing here on Test Drive, please let me know in the comments below. We do try to get back to everybody as soon as we can, but we are pretty busy here. As you can see, we're doing a lot of content. We got a lot going on here, so we will try to get back to you as quick as we can. But we do appreciate if you do ask any questions or just chat with us. We love chatting. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, then we also recommend that you do so as well, as we'd like to have you on board as we get to our next milestone. But we appreciate you watching, and until next time, take care.